This podcast is brought to you by Social Economy Europe. Welcome to Social Economy Talks, an in-depth look into the social economy in practice. Together, we will discover the successes of different social economy actors and find out how social economy offers inclusion, diversity, quality jobs, social innovation, and sustainable development through practical solutions for the common good. Join me on a journey to find out what makes a successful social economy entity and how we can overcome barriers to future growth of the social economy. I'm joined by Victor Meseguer, Director of Social Economy Europe, who has unique insight and can help us to understand what the social economy really is. A little context first. So the purpose of this podcast is to provide clear messaging on the social economy and help to define what it is for the general public. So it's often unknown or misunderstood. For example, I was listening to a talk with a panel on sustainable fashion, and while some of the panel were well aware of the social economy's role, one member had to ask what the social economy is. Now, I don't blame them, but what does the term social economy mean to you? And how is this different from the traditional economy that first-time listeners might be more familiar with?
Well, first of all, Nick, thanks a lot for having me, and congratulations for this initiative of a podcast on social economy. So let's start by the beginning. The social economy today is a global movement that demonstrates that there is another form of doing businesses. There is not only one single way of starting a business or starting a journey. All the ways to start a business are legitimate, all of them are good, all of them can generate some good and bad social impact, but the social economy is a different story. Do you want to start a business in which the primary obsession is doing something good for society at large or for a collective? Then your option is the social economy. Do you want to do something in which everybody has a say, involving your whole community to give big answers to the big problems of our time through a business model? Then the social economy is your thing. So social economy is basically about people first. People and the social objective over capital. We are a global movement. Just in the European Union, we are 2.8 million enterprises that employ over 13.6 million people and represents 8% of the European Union GDP. We are not a dream. We are not a utopia. We are a reality. And a reality that is growing because it is aligned with the needs, with the wonders of a new generation that wants to do business with purpose.
So when I read about the social economy, I read about a large diversity of organizations that fit into the scope of this social economy.
All these legal forms share some basic principles. As I was saying before, primacy of people over capital, democratic or participative governance, and reinvestment of most of the profits. So we go from the non-for-profit to the limited profitability. So let's give an example for everybody to understand what the social economy is. And we will give actually, Nick, if you allow me, two examples. One from the past, one historic example, which is the Rochdale Society of Equitable Pioneers, the first modern cooperative in the world, and then a more modern example. The origin of the modern social economy was in the 19th century in Rochdale, which is a little town in the metropolitan area of Manchester. This society was created by a group of textile workers, which had a social problem again. They had quite an important problem at the time, which is getting honest food at honest prices. This was replying to a problem of food safety. People was getting sick because of what they were eating. And there was also a problem of prices for the working class. So these textile workers together, they decided to start buying food, to buy this honest food at honest prices for the whole community. And you know what? And this is why social innovation plays a part in it. More than 40 years before the suffragette movement started in the UK, men and women were having one person, one vote in this society. So everybody was voting in the society, and they were solving this communitary problem. And then we've got modern examples of what the social economy is. So for instance, we have renewable energy co-ops, communities producing their energy together, breaking the oligopoly of energy production, and basically producing the energy that they are consuming, ensuring the transition because they really want to have clean energy from renewable sources, and they really want to have fairer prices and create jobs in their communities where those energy cooperatives operate and not in other places of the world. So that's one modern example that is booming all over Europe and all over the world. But we also have other examples such as La Fageda in Catalonia in northern Spain. It is an enterprise making dairy products, basically yogurts. But the main purpose of this enterprise is not making yogurts. The main purpose of this enterprise is not getting money. The main purpose is to integrate in the labor market vulnerable individuals, in this case, individuals with mental health issues. So they are making yogurts, they are being competitive, they are doing it right, because the final purpose, all this serves a cause, which is integrating in society and the labor market people which is vulnerable and often excluded.
We hear about cooperatives, associations, mutuals, foundations, and social enterprise and social entrepreneurship. I think it's really important that we use this time to tease out some of the differences between these terms.
That's right, Nick. So we are diverse, and at the same time we have this strong common identity. Let's start with cooperatives. Cooperatives are the personified, let's say, social economy form. They are also very diverse in themselves. We have a lot of different cooperative forms. We have the worker cooperatives, in which workers are the owners of it. We have consumer cooperatives, in which consumer buy things together. It can be energy, it can be food, it can be housing co-ops, building our houses together, consuming together everything that can be consumed, to have less intermediaries and have some power, not being individualized, not being alone in a world that sometimes is difficult. So agricultural co-ops, which are very important all around the world, agriculture is producing together, creating some synergies between them.
So how would the internal structure of a typical cooperative be?
Basically, co-ops, Nick, are about collective ownership. So it's more than one person. It's like an association for us to understand it. Various people doing something together. And these various people, basically, the big principle of the cooperative movement is one person, one vote. We all decide, we all manage the co-op. Of course, there are several levels of management. We are not talking about, it depends also on the size of the co-op. Sometimes the co-op will be a direct democracy. Sometimes the co-op will be a representative democracy. But basically, the co-op movement is this merger between democracy and economy and enterprise. It doesn't happen with the others, okay? In the others, we have the rulers, the owners, and then the workers. Or in the social economy, we are merging the two concepts. It's a democratic business model. And I was saying, one person, one vote. Who is the person? So in a worker cooperative, the person will be the workers. Those will be the people that own the enterprise and that have a say about the future of the enterprise. That's very good, because those enterprises never delocalize, because they are where the workers are. They never close if profits are not as good as we were thinking, as long as they got profits, as long as the enterprise is competitive in the market and has some profits, the enterprise will remain, because the idea is to serve this collective interest, is to employ these people. So again, this is the social objective of it. In the consumer co-op, it will be the consumers having each one voice. It doesn't happen in your typical supermarket when you go to buy the sugar. You don't have a say about which sugar you're buying. In a cooperative, you do. Where does it come from, etc., etc.
So I was under the impression that the idea was not to make profits. So what's the difference between the profits made with the social economy and with the traditional economy?
So basically, Nick, we reinvest profits. We can reinvest all the profits, or we can reinvest most of them. That's the universe of the social economy, from 100% reinvestment of them to partial reinvestment of them. What does it mean that we reinvest? It means that we save for the future. That's why we are more resilient. We resist better to crisis. It's one of the reasons, because there are two. First of all, because we save money. We are not giving money to shareholders all the time. We are saving because we don't know how the future will be. We are also investing in research and innovation, so we are more innovative than normal companies because we are investing more in that. And the second reason that explains our resilience is that people owns it. So people tend to resist. People want to keep their jobs. They have a social mission. They are part of it. They will sacrifice for their enterprise. There is an identification between the worker and the enterprise, which doesn't happen in other companies. Again, a democratic enterprise, like a nation in which everybody belongs to. In a cooperative, everybody belongs to the co-op. So what do we do with profits? We basically do a diversity of things. We reinvest in training of our employees. So again, innovation, research. We reinvest in research and innovation in being more innovative. And we also do community investments. So co-ops are at the service, and social economy enterprises in general are at the service of the communities in which they operate. So a part of the money is reinvested in the community, in creating services for the community or for the collective owners. So when it comes to mutuals, Nick, we have two types of mutuals, basically. Healthcare mutuals that are providing universal healthcare for, I think it's 200 million people around the world, so it's quite important. And we also have insurance mutuals and insurance cooperatives. They are part of the same movement. Sometimes they take the cooperative form, sometimes they take the mutual form, because at the end, we are talking about something that is very similar. Two different names to describe a very similar reality. So mutuals were created also in the 19th century. And it's again about protecting the people. More than buying together this time, more than working together or producing together, now the idea is to create solidarity links among the population. What happens before the national healthcare systems, before social security, what happens if tomorrow, being a worker, some years ago I was living as a worker in rural areas, and now I have moved to the city to work in industry in a factory. That's the history of the Industrial Revolution. And what happens if tomorrow I am sick? Because, in the rural area, I used to have my extended family that was taking care. There was like a historic social fabric, very traditionalist, in which everybody was taking care of each other. But now I'm isolated in this new city where I barely know people. So what happens if tomorrow I'm sick? So let's create mutual societies. Let's create solidarity relations with my fellow workers. Because tomorrow I can be sick, it can be myself, and after tomorrow it can be yourself. So let's create a mutual fund in which we all put some money aside to take care of our own. And this happened for healthcare, because there was no type of social protection. You were sick, you were out of the enterprise automatically. You were sick, there was no form of healthcare coverage. That's quite modern. So it happened for healthcare, but also for insurance. What happens if my house tomorrow is on fire? Or if the house of my neighbor tomorrow is on fire? So let's create a mutual fund. Let's put aside together on a solidarity principle some money. And no one pays more than the other.
Okay, so that's an example from history. But what about modern mutuals?
Healthcare mutuals are part of Europe's social security system. They were something, let's say, informal, created by citizens in the 19th century, but today they have merged with our social security system. So, for instance, in Belgium, where we are recording this, every person working, every citizen or non-citizen working in Belgium has to be member of a mutual. And there is a certain number of mutuals. But although we are all members of a mutuals, we know little about them. So, for instance, every member of the mutual can be elected president of the mutual. Every member of the mutual can participate in the General Assembly and take the big decisions, not everyday decisions, because again, we are not always talking about direct democracy. We are talking about participative democracy, like elections. Once per year, in our case, in mutuals and co-op, once per year, you go to the General Assembly, you approve the annual accounts or you disapprove them, you elect the board of directors, you appoint the president, the CEO, whatever. So that's how a mutual works. And what happens with profits in a mutual? 100% are reinvested in healthcare mutuals. To do what? To improve the quality of the healthcare service. Okay, so if there are profits, they will be reinvested in giving a better service, and also to expand the services that are given. Because we have some basic services that the state obliges to cover, but then we can expand that and start to worry about mental health. Start to worry also about holidays they are offering. I don't know about your mutual, but mine sends me every month some papers with holiday at reduced price somewhere in Belgium. So that's what mutuals are today. Cooperative and mutual insurance today are 30% of Europe's insurance market. So they are quite a big story, quite a big deal in our European insurance market.
And so what about foundations then? What are those?
So foundations, again, are businesses that reinvest profits, 100% of them usually. It's an instrument to do collective good. So again, we don't have shareholders to which to distribute profits. There is a social objective that is at the foundation of the foundation. Sorry to repeat that word, but there is always something that we want to achieve with the foundation. More than explaining it, because it's a bit complex, let me tell you a story, which is the story of ONCE Foundation in Spain. ONCE Foundation was created to provide services and protect the interest of blind people in Spain. It was created during the dictatorship, during Francoism, basically. We didn't have a very big state. We didn't have a welfare state taking care of the most vulnerable individuals in our societies. So there was a need to organize, to be together. If you are vulnerable, you are more interested than anyone to unite, to do things together, to protect each other. And that's how ONCE Foundation was created. It was done to provide services, education, to ensure basically that Disabled people, people with disabilities, they started with the blind, but then they expanded to all types of disabilities, had a normal life with the same rights than the others, with the same accessibility to jobs, to the labor market, to the university, helping them, translating books into Braille, helping them to go to university, giving them grants to pay for university and other stuff, creating jobs for them. And you know how they fund, how they finance? It's quite curious. It's not based on grants from the state. It's not based on public funding. ONCE Foundation is own finance through lottery. So as I said, lottery, both in the past and now, ONCE is allowed by the state to sell lottery in the streets. And actually the kind of cohesion, the whole territory of Spain, no? Because there is no city, there is no small village when you cannot find an ONCE seller selling its lottery. And with that, they do a lot. With that, they provided services, but they went beyond that. And they created a business group called Ilunion. Now they have hotels, laundries, hotels in the main cities of Spain, security companies, IT companies creating accessible websites for all types of enterprises. So with that money, they have been able, one, to provide services to the people, and two, to create further opportunities to the people through a group of social enterprises, which is called Ilunion. And it's an amazing story, Nick.
So I understand the word associations in general terms, but how are associations different to cooperatives?
Interesting question, Nick. Look, associations are very diverse also. We have two main types of associations. Associations with a lot of economic activity, so selling goods and services in the market, and associations with a little bit less of economic activity, like NGOs that we all know. They are all part of the social economy. They are all non-for-profit. They all reinvest all the money that they make. You know what an association is at the end of the day? It's also a way, an instrument for collective action. We want to achieve something together, so we create an association to do that. We pay some money to the association, and the association will serve our interest. We can pay some money or not. To create it, you need to put a bit of money aside, like any company, to go and register an association. But then it doesn't need to have a huge capital. Maybe with 50 euros, 20 euros, you can go ahead. So then you can decide what is your purpose with this association. Your purpose with this association can be defending a good cause. For instance, the fight against climate change. For instance, promoting or defending child's rights across the world. Fighting against poverty. Most lobbies are associations. So we have all types of associations defending different ideas. Okay, but let's say that 90% of them are at the service of a good cause. So that's one of the reasons that you can create an association. And to defend that, you will pay contributions, the member of the associations, which are the owners of the association. Again, like in mutuals and co-ops, it can be 100 people, it can be 1 million people that are together through this instrument, which is called association, defending their cause and paying to do so. That's a classical NGO, an association without economic activity. It doesn't mean that we don't pay a fee to be part of it, and that with that fee, the association invests in achieving the social objective that it has. But then we have other associations that sell goods and services in the market. For instance, here in Belgium, we have a super cool, in Liège, cinema association. But not a cinema association as a group of people that are interested by cinema. They actually have a big cinema with, I think, that more than 5 big screens, And it was created by the people of Liège, this important city in southern Belgium, because they wanted to have a diversity of offer. They were saying, okay, those Hollywood movies are very good, but what happens if I want to see Belgian movies, French movies, Czech movies? So they decided to create this cinema, which now is very successful. It also has a restaurant, and all that under the form of an association that reinvests 100% of the profits. Actually, most cultural workers in Belgium do it through an association form. Some through a cooperative forms, but mostly through association form. So most musicians, most group of musics are an association. Their form of invoicing is an association. They are not self-employed. They create an association. The association gets paid every time they have a concert or a gig. And they can have a salary. But again, this is the thing of the social economy. The cooperative, the association, whatever. You can have a very decent salary through the social economy, but you will never become rich. I am sorry for that. You can have a very decent and nice living, but big profits will not be distributed. You can have a 3,000 euro salary, a 4,000 euro salary, but never beyond that. There is always an equality. It's always salary. It's never profit distribution.
So finally, what are social enterprises? What's the difference between a new biz or a startup and a social enterprise?
There is a lot of confusion because actually social enterprises can also take a diversity of legal forms. So many times, Nick, social enterprises, which are a big movement all over the world, are in the form of a cooperative, in the form of an association, in the form of a foundation. So the social enterprise legal form, it only exists in some countries. In Italy, there is a social enterprise legal form, but it's not the only form used to do a social enterprise, even in Italy or in the UK, where there is no a social enterprise legal form, but there is something very similar with another name, but basically used by social enterprises. So what's a social enterprise? A social enterprise, according to the European Union, is a social economy enterprise. So our business model, our identity, our principles, people first, democracy, reinvestment, social objective over capital, that's what it is, which does two things according to the European Union. Work integration of vulnerable people or people that is far from the labor market, or providing social services to those in need. So the social enterprise is a part of our movement. It's a part which is a vocabulary which is a bit newer. It's end of the 20th century, beginning of the 21st century. So it's a newer concept, but at the end we are referring to our values, we are referring to our legal forms. We are basically talking about providing work opportunities for those who are far from the labor market and giving social services to those who need it.
Wow, that's a lot of information, but it's clear that the social economy is a force for good in this world. Given that sustainability is so much more than just nature, it requires social equality that under the current economic status quo is only getting worse. So as I explained at the beginning of this podcast, I am on a journey to find out more about the social economy. I want to find examples of how organisations, large, medium and small, are contributing to the betterment of society. So in the following episodes, we will be speaking to a whole host of people involved in social economy organisation, advocacy and policy to make it easier for social economy organisation to thrive. In the next episode, we will be taking a look at the voices of a diverse group of actors from a range of different social economic organisations. We will then have episodes focusing on the social economy's role in the green transition, the importance of digitalisation and what the social economy can provide and still needs to do, the role of the social economy in the COVID recovery, and then how social economy can increase human capital in a variety of ways. I hope that today we've made the concept of social economy a little more clear, and I hope that you can join me in my journey to discover more. Thank you for listening to Social Economy Talks. See you next time.